Alright, so welcome to the first ever book review that I've ever done, and so I thought I'd start my book review with my favourite book of all time, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. So, what is this book? You probably might have heard of the Steven Spielberg movie, but essentially, I discovered this book ages ago. So when I was 8 years old, my sisters would play the musical by Jeff Wayne, I think that's his name. They would play the musical, and as a kid I was shit scared. And on the album cover, inside the album, there was a bunch of artists and drawings of these genocidal pictures, and it just freaked the shit out of me as a kid. It would give me nightmares. I used to hate when it played on. They used to play this alien sound, that shit scared the shit out of me. It was Little Brother repellent. I hated it. Now, pretty much the book revolves around this narrator character, and the narrator character traverses his way. Pretty much a missile lands on Earth, like a big capsule, and then you just follow the narrator as the capsule twists, opens, becomes this big tripod, and then they go from like outside of London, and they kind of slowly work their way towards London, and then eventually by the time they get to London, I won't spoil the movie. Actually, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. They get to the town and all the aliens are dead because the bacteria killed them, which is a bit... I don't think I knew what bacteria was back in those days, but it was a very revolutionary sci-fi novel, and there's lots of really heart-pulsating moments in there. It's got to be the best alien book of all time, at least, and then probably best alien... Yeah, at least the best alien book of all time. It's such a good classic novel. If you're interested in getting into classic novels at all, read War of the Worlds. It's actually really entertaining. And that's coming from me, who's like a 19-year-old male that has the attention span of a f***ing goldfish. So these aliens are so powerful. I think so many movies, they'll have this like hero protagonist, and he kills all the bad aliens like Mel Gibson or whatever in Signs. But okay, like the aliens here clearly outbeat us. They just clearly, the humans don't stand a chance. The narrator is just like getting on by the aliens, and that's what makes it so scary, because the stakes are so high in this book. And the reason I think it resonates, after reading it a year ago, the reason it resonates with me so much is because this whole book about aliens invading, it's actually a modernist, post-colonial book criticizing the English colonial expansion over the world. Let me explain myself. H.G. Wells had inspired this novel based on the genocide of Van Diemen's Land. And if you don't know where Van Diemen's Land is, it's actually Tasmania in Australia. So in Tasmania, where in Australia where I live, there was a mass genocide of Indigenous people, and on the island of Van Diemen's Land, they were pretty much almost wiped out, which was just absolutely terrible, reprehensible. It's just one of the awful tragedies of colonialism. That's just an objective fact. And I think this is such a good metaphor, because as you're with the narrator, you have these aliens that are just destroying the land. They are killing, just genociding people. It's just such we just are clearly outcompeted, and I think it represents what the Indigenous... It really puts you in the shoes of what an Indigenous person... I'm not saying at all that's what it's exactly like, or that I understand now, but... or I know, but I think I have a better idea of what it would be like to be to be the victim of an invasion, essentially. And I think that's really relevant to particularly a country like Australia that we live in, or at least I live in. I think a lot of countries have these problems. I think it really allows you to really understand the horror of being under invasion, really. Not like immigration. Like, I'm talking about an actual invasion. So it's a shocking book. The musical's the only one that's really adapted it properly. which is really annoying because it's such a good story, and it kills me because nobody's ever properly adapted it. Like the BBC made their miniseries on it recently, and apparently it was that's so fucking annoying. Like, I was so hyped for like a good adaptation of War of the Worlds. Nothing. Apparently the Steven Spielberg one was reasonable, but like, it looks pretty shit. I hate Tom Cruise. I know. But just a proper readaptation of the book is just never, it's just, you're still yet to be seen. Yeah, it's such a good book for getting into reading. It's still a bit outdated because the science fiction doesn't quite work, but I mean, we know what's on Mars. No, balls on Mars. Ball is on Mars. But I think I love the aesthetic. It's such a good book. And then the other thing too, you can go to the musical, and then you can listen to a song that's based off the chapter that you just read, and it's awesome. It's such. I would definitely recommend doing that because it is awesome. Look at the artwork of the War of the Worlds, the Jeff Wayne musical, because it is surreal. It's such an awesome take on science fiction. It's such an awesome original take on like aliens in general. I always found that aliens were the as a kid, I always found that aliens were the scariest monsters because vampires can get taken out with a steak or some garlic. Werewolves can be taken out by a silver bullet. You know what you can do to the aliens? Fuck all. But yeah, I think this is really, I would 100% recommend this book. It's a really short read. It's only like, 200 pages or something. Yeah, give it a read. It's 100%. I'm also about to finish another book called Dirt Music by Tim Winton, so I'll be reviewing that as well. Let me know if you like these. And if you're studying this book, please reach out to me because